Hello, guys. My name is Will Little. For you who do not know me, but I decided to film a class, one of my classes, and put it on my YouTube page. I started a new YouTube page called A Little Inspiration after my name, Will Little. And I've been teaching classes for about 20, 21 years here in the community in the Philadelphia area. And now traveling about across the country, giving my talk and my speech about my life and my transformation, my extreme transformation. So a lot of you guys may not know nothing about me at all, and you'll watch this, and hopefully this video will get a lot of views on it for people who really need information. It's not about me, but people who really need this information about EI. Especially in the communities, the inner city communities where there is a lot of violence, there's a lot of suicides and murders. There are a lot of people who are feeling hopeless or just stuck in their life. A lot of people who dealing with a lot of trauma, experience trauma growing up as a youth, such as I did myself. And some of them are still, as adults, are dealing with that particular trauma. So that's why one of the reasons why I decided to give a class in the city. I've been giving classes for youth for a long time in the community, mentoring and coaching, and a little bit for adults. But I kind of zoomed in on this particular topic of or form of discussion. I mean, for my own personal development and professional development, but also for others who I know need this. And taking time to think about just life in general as being a motivational speaker and a public figure and a community activist. I try to seek ways to try to help other people in the community to get where they need to be at in life or create their best life. And what I come across in my studies is something I always knew about. Emotional intelligence, EI. This is the same tools that I have used. When I was in prison at the age of 19 years old, and I decided to change my life around. I went through these particular principles without even knowing about emotional intelligence, not even being taught about this stuff, not having a college course in the county at Holmesburg Prison in Philadelphia, where I was locked up at my first time really being arrested and being charged with a major crime. And at that time, I just sat back in my cell and said, I want to change my life. I know this life wasn't for me. And what I used was particularly these tools. Let me tell you how I came in contact with emotional intelligence. Just having the idea of the name emotional intelligence, not really the principles and the formula to emotional intelligence, but just the name of it. I was watching the Bruce Willis movie one day on my block, not in the cell, but I was on my block because we had a TV on the block, and everybody would sit down and watch the same movies. It was a good movie. Bruce Willis had a new movie that came out. I think it was Die Hard 1 or 3. I'm not sure which one it was. And at this time, this period of my life, I wanted to change my life. So I started working on myself, working on my anger, working on my frustration, working on my trauma and things of that nature. And I just really did a self-evaluation, self-inventory checking myself, like, how did I become this person who didn't care, who was angry, who would act really violent if necessary, who didn't care about what he'd done to anyone, if he hurt somebody or not. And to be honest, to be honest, tell you the truth, I was locked up for murder, at the age of 19 years old, for those who don't know. And if you want to hear about that, there's more in this book right here. You can find this on Amazon, in the City Youth. I see why I'm holding it for a second, because that was kind of quick, I know. So Inner City Youth, Will Little, that's my whole story right there. And you can find more about that story, but I really want to get into emotional intelligence and how it helped me transform in the worst place you can be in the world, in the Holmesburg prison, where it was really violent and a lot of criminals such as myself with criminal mindsets. People who are addicted to violence and accustomed to the culture of violence, and just emotionally detached and dehumanized and killing themselves emotionally, because everything you do emotionally affects your physical being. And when I heard about emotional intelligence, it was said in a way where as though it clicked to me, because I was always somewhat intelligent dude, a thinker as a kid growing up, and only time I didn't think is when I was angry, when I was upset. So I was watching Bruce Willis movie, and there was a scene in the movie where Bruce Willis was looking for the terrorists, and the terrorists, he ran into him. And when he ran into the terrorist started acting like he was a hostage. He was real scared, intimidated by Bruce Willis, acting like he thought Bruce Willis was the actual terrorist, but he was a terrorist, the leader of the terrorists. So Bruce Willis had his gun out. He said, he was talking to Bruce Willis, and Bruce Willis was acting really irrational. And he said, he made a statement to Bruce Willis. He said, "You're acting off emotions without using the benefit of your intellect." Acting off emotions without using the benefit of your intellect. And when he said that to Bruce Willis, I had an aha moment. I was like, wow, that was deep. That was really deep. Because then I started reflecting on myself. That's how I was. I make smart moves. How I make a dumb move to land myself in prison, maybe for the rest of my life. So when I started thinking more about that, I was still contemplating and thinking about my life and how to transform, take self-inventory. So the first thing I started doing was self-awareness, self-inventory, self-management, self-reflecting on my life. That's the first principle of emotional intelligence. And this is a real deep principle right here. This is the most important principle in emotional intelligence. The most important, right? So what is emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence is the basis of understanding your right hemisphere, your mind, which is the emotional side, and the left is the intellectual side, and combining those two things together to make rational decisions in your life and having control over how you feel about certain things. Because a lot of things that we do, everything that we do is based on feeling. It's based on a feeling that we get. The emotion is the action. Like, if people don't understand the difference between emotions and feelings, but emotions is the particular action that is displayed in our outer appearance like our facial expressions or the things we do, how we act angry, snap out, curse out, break stuff, hurt ourselves. That is the actual emotion. But the feeling is what we have, on ourselves, inflicted on ourselves. And I say ourselves a lot because you'll see later on down the line, when I start breaking this down more, you'll see that a lot of pain that we feel is self-inflicted. And even though people do things to us as well, that hurts us, that embarrasses us, or that hurts us in some kind of way, a lot of it is self-inflicted. And you'll see as we go on in this particular video, when I start breaking all these 4 principles down. There's only 3 you can see right here, but it's a 4th one at the bottom that the camera is not picking up, but I will show you that sooner or later. But what is emotions, right? So emotions for most, PhDs out there, I'm not a PhD myself, I didn't go to college, I didn't graduate out of 12th grade. I actually got my GED upstate in Greensburg prison, basically. So I tell everybody, and it's in my story, that I actually turned state pen into my Penn State when I was up there. So getting back to emotions is what we have written already right here. Is, if you can see it, it is energy, right? Energy and motion. All right, energy and motion. That's what emotions are. Energy and motion. Right. So the energy that we have, we all have energy. We all have energy, right? So it's energy that surrounds every living thing. I won't say the universe, but every living thing, even beyond the universe, that we have no clue or idea of at this time, at this moment. But every living thing has an energy source to it. And we are the energy source. Universal law of energy will break that down to you and just explain to you how everything in the universe is connected. Just like everything in your body is connected to each other, your heart, your lungs, your liver, your pancreas, your digestive system, your brain, everything is connected to each other. So that energy it takes for me to lift this pen up, the energy it takes for my thought to process, for me to formulate words through my tongue to your ears, that's all energy that I'm putting out there. The thought process is energy. So actions is actually energy and motion, universal law of action. When you break down that too. So I'm gonna use a lot of universal laws so I can try to educate you on how all this works together in your life. That way you learn how to navigate your way through life, period. Right? So energy and motion is emotions. And everything we do is based on emotion if you take time to look at it. And most of the times when we have been through hard times or been traumatized by something, it leaves a feeling, right? And like one poet, I'm a poet myself too, so I'm gonna quote a poem from or a saying or quote from what's her name, Miss Maya Angelou. She said, People will forget what you do to them, but they won't forget how you make them feel. Feelings, right? Everybody has feelings, and you can just recall some things. Your happy moments you remember the most, and your saddest moments you remember the most all the time, because we are a record of our experience, and that experience is connected to some kind of feeling that gave us. Some many places, okay, was that places, people, things gave us feelings, and we always remember those things. Remember those places we went to. We had good times with our parents. Remember the places that we went to, and we had bad times with our parents or our friends, or just by ourselves or alone. We remember those moments. Like I remember prison like it was yesterday. I mean, one of the roughest times in my life. I remember that. I won't forget it. And I can always recall it. And I can recall the experience almost verbatim, but it don't affect me emotionally. But I remember the feeling that it gave me. So that's why I never went back after 21 years of being free. But emotional intelligence is the very formula that we need as a society in order to first confront ourselves, confront the struggles and the trials and tribulations that we go through ourselves on a daily basis, and then what we have been through in the past, the wounds that are still open inside of us, because a lot of us still have open wounds that we have not yet healed. So the self-awareness part is the most important part. It was the most important part for me. I think it's the most important part for anyone who transform their life and reinvent themselves and evolve to the next level. What is self-awareness? Self-awareness is knowing thyself. Your experience and what you've been through. Like I said, you remember things that made you feel a certain kind of way. So you can recall those things. And you start reflecting and recalling those things if you have the strength to confront them, because a lot of people don't have the strength to confront a lot of things that happen to them, especially if it's traumatizing. And if it's traumatizing, a lot of us try to block it out or try to fill it with voids like drugs and alcohol. And that's why we have an alcohol problem in our society. That's why we have a drug problem, drug epidemic in our society, because it all stems down to the root. I mean, you could treat the alcoholic, you could treat the drug addicted person, you could treat the person who is angry all the time. But the treatment is not in giving medication. The treatment is really digging down to the source of the problem. Where did it come from? What feeling that you have that makes you reflect and reflect and so what I'm looking for. Excuse my throat. Reflect and then go back to your bad habits, basically. Go back to your bad. I'm looking for the right word for it, though. But go back to the same habits that you had before of, filling that void with drugs and addiction. If you've been off of drugs for a while, or if you've been trying to live a direct and positive life and not into violence and not into being uncontrollable or letting your emotions get the best of you. Sometimes things trigger that in people. Certain things they try to avoid, they try to run away from, and a person may start working hard every day just to memory of that feeling out their mind, that thought out their mind. So they use distractions. A lot of us use distractions in our lives, so we won't think about the things that traumatize or hurt us, and not dealing with that. Then it still festers inside, and in some way, shape, form, or fashion, it's triggered by someone or something. So you always have to face that. And sometimes when they get triggered, for some cases I have dealt with, some people I have dealt with, had a good life, good job, great job, making probably 6 figures a year, and then some things spiral down, lose a house, get divorced, or whatever. Some things happen like that, and they fall into a deep depression. Because there are some things that still inside them that they have not yet confronted yet or dealt with. So the important part of emotional intelligence is understanding thyself and confronting the problems that you always had and dealt with in your life. And a thing I just did recently in my last class, I just had a class probably like, say Thursday, Sunday, so 4 days ago. I did an exercise in this class. I give a free class in the community at least once a month. I try to. But now I'm trying to build up my speaking career, so I'm trying to actually travel around the country and around the world, to tell my story and also teach emotional intelligence. So in this class right here, I decided to get everyone on a self-awareness piece, do exercise, and writing down one particular thing that traumatized them in their life that they're still dealing with today. And these are adults, some are 18, very few are 18, 19, 20, but a lot of them are well in their 30s and 40s and 50s, and 60 people there has 60 stories, and some have more stories to share and write down. But I just told them write down a half a page because this exercise is going to be really deep and it's going to be timely. So a lot of them wrote down the traumatic experience they faced when they was children, and that they're still dealing with, they're still living with, they're still reliving over and over again in their lives. So when I collected all the paperwork, I got it up front, and I call this particular exercise stepping outside of yourself. Stepping outside of yourself to see yourself. Because a lot of times we might tell ourselves certain things. Our self-talk might be positive or maybe a lot negative too as well. Or like we try to run from it. But we still go through the experience every once in a while. But this time I'm going to try to help you confront that feeling, that time in your life where it's most hurtful time. In a room full of strangers, a lot of them didn't know each other because they came from all over the city. In a room full of strangers, creating a safe place and a comfortable place to allow them to be uncomfortable. Creating a safe place and a comfortable place to allow them to be uncomfortable. That means being out of themselves. So they're stepping out of themselves, and they got a chance now to allowed every individual to take a sheet of paper, a story, a testimony, and I wanted them to read that testimony. And it wasn't their own; it was someone else's in the room. So that person in the room can get a chance to look at themselves, tell that story. And that was an out-of-body experience, and I'm telling you, it went over really, really well. A lot of them really start reflecting on their life and start seeing themselves. They had advice for their own self that they normally wouldn't give to themselves. But they had advice for that person right there who was telling their story. That's how deep it was. And some people even heard their own story from other people and thought that they were over their story. They got over it. And they realized they was ready to break down in tears when they heard their story being told by someone else. That's how deep the class got. And in this class, some people started crying. I had to hug a few people too as well. But I coached them through the class to understand that you have to face your fears. And a lot of times that fear is false evidence appearing to be real. FER. False evidence appearing to be real. What we create in our own minds. That's how powerful the mind is. And we're going to get into a little bit of neuroscience, understanding the psychology of the mind, the subconscious, unconscious state of mind. But first, we have to get through this self-awareness, right? Emotional intelligence, even though everything starts with the thought process in your brain, it starts with the intelligent process. But we don't get into the emotional side. Then we go back into the intelligent side, right? So the self-awareness piece that I did in the training part with them, a lot of them got a chance to see that they weren't the only ones that was going through the stuff they've been going through all their lives. So it made a connection. It created an energy, a powerful energy in the room that allowed them to have an even better, safer place amongst each other and want to console each other. In their hardship, and because we all connected, and that's what people don't realize. That even though we live in a world of division, because society promotes division, society promotes separatism and things of that nature. But we all are connected through the universal law, and people start to feel that connection because that energy, this unseen force that people don't really pay attention to, was all over the room. I had to share that with them. That energy is in the room. The energy is love. What is love? Love is nothing but connection. When you start to connect with other people and their feelings and their emotions, and knowing that we're all in the same energy source, right? We started breaking down the self-awareness piece, and people started to now understand them and where they are right now in their life. So once you start understanding where you are in your life, by taking that self-inventory, that self-reflection, you got to reflect on everything that's going on in your life, good or bad, and be able to confront those things that's really holding you back, just blocking you from moving forward, in life, and that is stopping you from becoming your best self. Right? If you look on YouTube, I have a TED Talk. It says how to become the best version of yourself. And these things I'm teaching because I experienced this stuff. I went through all these things. I went through this transformation period in my life. The 10 years I was in prison. And I had to continue doing the transformation period once I got out of prison to readjust and readapt to society once again. With all those trials and tribulations, all those setbacks and letdowns, all those emotional turmoils. I had to be able to manage my emotions and my ego in order for me to be able to comply to my destiny, what I have written for myself, my purpose in life, and stick to that plan, be convicted of that plan, even though I never did this before a day in my life. Even though I had no prior coaching or no psychiatrist to help me navigate myself through this, all I had was the creator, basically. Right? And if you believe in a creator, then everything experience you have in your life is experience set by you. You lead your own experiences by the things you do and the things you say. Right? So self-awareness is just being aware of what you're saying. I had to change my tone, I had to change my talk, I had to change my expression a lot because I was unapproachable. I had a look that was unapproachable. I had to recognize that. My justification for violence and things that I did to other people by hurting them because I was hurt, because hurt people hurt people. That's why you have a society full of violence and people ready to act on violence. Why? Because people are hurting out there. And when people are hurting, you're going to get massive amount of violence in our community. That's why in America, the prison population is 5% of the world's population that's incarcerated. We got 2.5 million people on paper in prison, on parole, on probation from the feds and from the state. Why? Because all those particular actions that we have done was based on emotion. It was anger or it was greed, either one or two. Right? You're doing things for money or you're doing things because you're hurting inside yourself. Right? So that's an emotion that has to be tamed. And if the emotion is not tamed, then therefore you'll resort back to your same behavior. You revert. That's the word I was looking for earlier. Revert back to that same behavior. Right? And if you want to be the best version of yourself, you don't want to go backwards, you want to go forward. Right? Because we're looking through the dashboard window, not the rearview mirror. Most people live in the past. They look through the rearview mirror and not the dashboard window. All right? The front shield window. So in self-awareness, I'm trying to finish this out. There's more to this. Let's go really in depth. But self-awareness is basically knowing yourself. And who knows yourself better than you do? You know yourself. So for action steps, I want you guys to take tonight. I would say 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning when you don't hear no noise at all and it's complete silence, because there are a lot of benefits in silence. People don't realize that because they're so used to distractions. But meditation, that's what people meditate. Meditation is very good. So this time of night, like 1:30 of the night, around 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, when no cars are moving around, if you live in a city area like I do, or you hear no people shouting or screaming down the street. Nobody's playing radio, music, or toys, or playing with toys in your home if you have children. But you can be really in the silence of the night and reflecting on your life. When you're reflecting, you start thinking about all those things that affected you emotionally, that still traumatizing today, and even some of the good moments. And that's your inventory check. It's like when you go to a store and a person who owns a business and they sell products, they have to do an inventory check and see what is good, what is outdated, what is needed, what we ran out of, what we have a lot of that's not selling. So you have to go into your own life like that. You have to go into your life like I did when I was in prison at 19 years old. No one taught me this. I just thought about it. And said, look, I got to do this, man. Being a hustler and a drug dealer, of course, I took inventory check on my drugs, how much drugs I had left, how much was selling, what wasn't selling, was it good or was it bad? So I took those same tools that I had and apply that to my life, and apply it to my self-awareness by breaking down myself, like, all right, what did I go through? What happened to me? So when you start doing those particular things, self-awareness, things you hurt, people you hurt yourself, people who hurt you, you make that list and everything else, and then you start writing down certain experiences because we are a record of our experience. Everything we've done in our life is who we are. That's what made us. And that's the reason why I'm the person I am today, because of what I went through and got through. Not because I went through and still going through, because what I went through and got through, that's why I got here. That's why I'm able to talk to you right now on this YouTube channel and inspire thousands of people. But you have to do that self-inventory check. You have to reflect on your life as far as back as you can go. And when you reflect on your life, you start writing down, you start seeing yourself on paper. That's the mirror that we need to look at all the time. Not the mirror that's on your bathroom wall, not the mirror in your bedroom, the whole full body mirror, but the mirror of self. And the mirror of self, it's as you reflect in your mind, reflecting your program, you start writing down all the things that impacted your life. And when you start seeing it on paper, it becomes a little therapy for you. Because you can only heal what you reveal. You can't heal what you conceal. And when you try to block it out, you try to not think about it, you try to cover it up or banish it with drugs and alcohol and things of that nature, or violence, or working too hard, all those things lead to a slow death. You want to be able to face it. So emotional intelligence is a thing that allows you to confront yourself. Stop confronting other people and confront yourself. And that's how you start getting better and better with your life. That's how you become the best you, the best version of yourself, right? Reach your full potential in life. And this segment of emotional intelligence with a little inspiration, I'm going to close out right here. Give you a chance to check on this, and reflect tonight on what you just heard. And hopefully it started working for you. And if you need more information, you can always check on my channel, or you can find me on YouTube. You can find me on YouTube under Will Little. You can find me also on Facebook under Will Little, or LinkedIn under Will Little, or Instagram under Latif, Latif _MUHSIN. All right. So peace, live in it, teach it. And also, if you want to hear more about my story, Inner City Youth on Amazon.com by Will Little. And there will be another segment on self-awareness. We're breaking it down. Then we get into the self-management, the management of self, how you manage our fears, how you manage the things that's happening now in real time, and how we be able to deal with certain events that take place in our life that don't agree with our happiness, basically, right? Because we all want to be happy. We all in the pursuit of happiness. So a lot of times things don't agree with our happiness, and then we get emotional about those things, and we react on those emotions. Okay, so peace, live in it. Always tune in. Subscribe to this channel.